And with us right now, Blake Johnson. Blake, you're a serial entrepreneur. My friend, you have started, launched, grown, and exited a lot of very successful companies. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk about that and talk about that process. Notably, Byte, B-Y-T-E, which we were just talking about this. So according to Harvard, the fastest growth to $1 billion valuation with no investor capital, right? First off, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's talk about how. How does someone do that?
So everybody I've been asked that question many times here over the last few months. And well, Byte was started officially in March of 2017, and we sold it to a big public dental conglomerate at the end of 2020 for over $1 billion of cash. And that question, as you've noted, has been asked a number of times. What was important about that is that the business model in itself wasn't 4 years old. It was one that we'd been kind of scripting and cultivating over the last 10 to 15 years. So what we've really tried to focus on are some key kind of core fundamentals in a business. One of which at the top of our charts is always delivering a great consumer experience. And the second is profitability. And when you hold yourself accountable to both those elements, you are forced, for better or for worse, to look at the world through a different lens than I think have traditionally been looked upon. Where most businesses are kind of valued most on growth, and more recent in the last decade plus, growth at all costs. We have never subscribed to that. We've never had the luxury, because we've refused to take outside capital along the way. We've never had the luxury to go deep in the coffers and burn a lot of money. Instead, we've been forced to focus on, unit economics, cost per acquisition, and a lot of metrics which really drive the business, complemented by creating a really good product that make consumers happy and that when they buy have a great experience and a great journey, while they're utilizing our product.
When you don't have, or you choose not to go to the bank and, just grab a blank check, right? You're forced to get resourceful. And I think it really sharpens you as to, how you can get this in the hands of people much, in a much scrappier way, but possibly much more authentic and organically.
Correct. I mean, not to go back to the numbers, but being in my position, I'm chairman of YPO Los Angeles this year. Actually, today was my last day. I was happy to transition out and hand off the baton this morning. But I have the luxury of seeing a lot of different businesses at scale. And what I found is there's some pretty strict commonalities, both good and bad, on both sides of the fence. Businesses that traditionally do well and businesses that struggle at times and ultimately don't make it. And what I've noticed is that the folks and entrepreneurs and executives, CEOs, et cetera, that really get granular on metrics and the per unit economics of a customer, and really focus on both revenue on one side and the expenses on the other, and don't fool themselves. I always kind of have an age-old term that I heard my dad say when I was really young: whatever you're planning on in business, plan on it taking twice as long, being twice as hard, and costing twice as much. Yeah. And I think, business owners as a whole get, enamored in their business, and they're always looking at the best case scenario, what could happen, as opposed to really being sober about it and focusing in on what if that plan A scenario didn't happen? What's my plan B? What's my plan C? And so forth. And when you force yourself to look at it and be a skeptic and, really get familiar with all of the costs to run your business. How much does it cost to bring a customer in? What's your overhead? What's your shipping cost, manufacturing, servicing costs, whatever that might be specific to an individual business,
Mm-hmm.
and really, don't cheat yourself along the way. Run that extra mile to dream up all these extra costs that could possibly come into the picture at a later point. And then on the opposite side, how long is it going to take you to get your revenue, from the customer? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 2 months? Is it 2 years to really hit that, lifetime value of a specific customer or client or whatever your moniker may be for those people. And then once you get that in and understand all those elements, you gotta force yourself to start tailoring, your expenses or get creative with generating more revenue on the other side to make each unit profitable. And when you can do that successfully, that, and you can also do that at scale, that's when you have kind of the tiger by its tail. And that's what we've really focused on over the last few businesses. Byte was my last one. The one prior to that was a huge success called a finance company called Currency. Mm-hmm. And then I've had a host of others prior to that. But that's the common trait we saw between all those businesses. And it's not easy. It doesn't come day one. It's a process to get everything to fit cleanly in their boxes.
Yeah. What is the value of your network, and how much effort have you put into building relationships with people? And how has that impacted your business success?
Great question. The network is everything. The relationships you have with people are everything. In order to do something well and to do something at scale, it takes a village. It takes a lot of people operating in concert. And not only do you have to be thoughtful about who you surround yourself with and who's on your team, but most importantly, how they're incented and how they're aligned. You could have the best, idea and the best product, on the face of the earth. And unless you have the people yourself aligned with the people on your team, it's going to fail. It's going to fail because at scale, there's too many competing interests and there's too many people pulling, in different ends of the rope. But the network is key. I always give the analogy of, businesses, and the way I look at a business and building a team is like a baseball team. What makes a great pitcher makes a really, really bad first baseman. What makes a great outfielder doesn't necessarily translate into making a great catcher. And you can give that, analogy to different sports. But where I focus and is really making sure two things: we recruit the best people and align ourselves with the best people specific to the base that should be played, and that everybody plays their own position and stays in their own lane. Problems happen when, the second baseman starts criticizing the first baseman and saying, "Hey, I think I could play first base better," and that causes a lot of dissension on a team. We in turn try to keep those lanes very focused and everybody aligned, operating and running towards the same goal. And what's good for one is good for all, and what's bad for one is bad for all. But at the core base of it all, the network, and whether it's people you see every day or vendors or partners you rely on, are absolutely critical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So what was your first venture, right? Where it was like your company, your co-founder, founder, or whatever?
It was in 2005, and I became an accidental entrepreneur at that point. I was headed, I did well. I graduated school in 99, and I had a good run at a company and did really well. And from a sales standpoint, was headed off to grad school. And as I was headed off, I got an offer, totally unsolicited and unexpected. It was not thrown in my lap, but rather negotiated, where the company was a small company in Los Angeles, which brought me here, ultimately gave me 50% of the company to join forces. And I was good. I was good on one small portion of the business, which was revenue generation. I was really, really bad, or had no experience on all the other more important 80% of operating a company. But we were jumping into a great time in the economy in 06 and 07. And became one of the fastest growing companies in Los Angeles. This was a finance company, an equipment leasing and finance company, where we provided capital to the small and medium sized businesses throughout America and lent out hundreds of millions of dollars. But, thought we were great until 08 hit, and, got squarely kicked in the teeth in 2008 and 2009 and 10 for that matter. But that was one of the most painful and most educational, probably, I think maybe I've had one or two more painful periods, but definitely the most educational of my career is really understanding why businesses work and why businesses fail. And not only, trying to deal with my own and get it through, which we did by a narrow margin. But you really got to see who was built strong and who wasn't during that time period.
Yeah.
But that was my first one.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the serial entrepreneurs who have had their teeth kicked in a few times. Those are the MVPs, the one that's like, never had, just struggled with any kind of adversity. Look out. That's a ticking time bomb, I think. So.
Ticking time bomb. I was having this conversation yesterday. We're dealing with somebody that's a ticking time bomb specific to that. But yes, that's a common theme.
Blake, you've spent a lot of time helping out in your local community, worked with YPO, a lot of other organizations. Like I had, my other company, Savings Angel, did very well. And, I just feel like, when you learn something, you develop those certain set of skills, you've got some success. Like that is, it's always the time to give back, but now I feel like there's a special obligation, right? Is that, I look at, what was it that propelled me to be successful? It was mentors. It was people who took time out of their day to help me out. And so therefore, that's just the pattern of generativity. But why do you just talked about being on you were the president, right? YPO?
The chairman this last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So why do you spend so much time volunteering?
Spend a ton of time volunteering and have historically. I grew up in El Centro, California, right on the Mexican border. And El Centro is a big farming community, agriculture, but it also it's the undisputed number one heavyweight of the unemployment rate. It has been. So the highest unemployment rate in the nation is El Centro, California.
Wow.
And being from a kind of agriculture poor community, I've recognized from a pretty early age, I've had a lot of people extend their hand at, very sensitive moments in my life to give me an opportunity, whether to get an education or give me a job or, whatever that might be. And have always been deeply appreciative of those things that were offered to me. Nobody gave me the opportunity in the sense that, I had to work for it, and I had to take advantage of it when the hand was extended and did, 100% of the times, at least I believe it was 100% of the time. But I've always recognized that the right thing has kind of popped up for me at the right time. And it's been my obligation from an early age. And, the first thing I did when I graduated college, I signed up to be a Big Brother in the Big Brothers Big Sisters organization at 23.
Wow.
And, felt that because I was fortunate, it was my duty to, extend that hand to others. And it just kind of has grown as I've done better in business and had the more ability to do so. The net has been cast wider and wider. I have a call I'm looking forward to today at 4:30 here this afternoon with a young entrepreneur, this girl from, the wrong part of Los Angeles, Amalia Charles. And she's a budding entrepreneur, and I've been helping her with a business concept that she's developing. And, things like that are the best part of my week. And seeing, how these little efforts can affect people's lives and give them a different trajectory in life is something that I encourage everybody to experience, and do, because the most appropriate time to start doing it was yesterday.
Right.
And the more we can do it, there's always so many excuses, kids and sports schedules. And, I'll take that call from my son's Little League game today, but just trying to make time, for doing that. It's important. And being in Los Angeles, locally here in our backyard, there's a lot to be done.
Yeah. Obviously, do it for the impact that you get to have in the life of someone else. But I'm sure you've experienced some business, probably some things have happened positively for you professionally as a result of you just being out doing good stuff too. Like emotionally, of course, it's exceptionally valuable. I mean, I could speak for myself. Like there would be no up my influence if I hadn't spent that time serving on pro bono boards and our local startup community here in Orlando. But because I'm like, I'm just going to keep helping out. Life is good, business is good. I'm going to keep helping out, and then it was just like another way, level of networking that I unintentionally kind of bumped into, and then opportunities sprung from that.
Yeah, and anytime I think you're out doing good deeds and communicating and trying to surround yourself with like-minded people, karma takes full effect at that point, and and doors open, opportunities open. You get the opportunity to meet new people and discuss new concepts, but it'll never hurt. It'll never hurt. And yeah. Certainly it's opened some doors and also introduced me to some really great people that, along the way that I've been in turn able to learn from and experience new things along the way with.
Yeah. All right. So Blake, what are you working on next?
So we're doing two things. I'm doing another consumer product called Alter, which will be in the health and beauty in-home fitness space. I started working on that in 2009, or October 11th, 2019. Started working on that pre-pandemic, and it'll bring a new layer of nutrition, direction, and both fitness into the home. But for the masses, we're really focused on changing the direction, knowledge, behavior of the people in America that traditionally don't have access to certain things. And then the second thing I'm working on, and this will be the first time I've ever worked on two things at once. We always kind of pride ourselves on doing one thing and one thing well. Yeah. There's where I'm breaking my own rule. But the next thing that I'm working on is a finance company called Uniform. And as crazy as this sounds, we did this with Byte. We incubated this with my last company, Byte, and put out tens of thousands of loans, and it worked really well. But it's going to turn financing on its head, specifically consumer financing, where we're going to have one interest, a 7% interest rate, which from a consumer standpoint is appropriately low. Never will increase after that, unlike credit cards and some other finance programs. But one interest rate, one term, and one monthly payment for all credit grades. So effectively, whether you're an A credit or an F credit, you get the same deal. And this is going to, I'm not going to give away the secret sauce because but we're aiming to do this and still have the yields on the backside for the finance company to withstand default rates and to still make a profit. And it'll be, I can, kind of solve a little bit for you, but the merchants that we're providing this for instance, a Byte, will subsidize the lower credits. And so with, we played, we separated church and state. We had Byte Finance and Byte as an operating company, which sold clear and visible aligners. And Byte, the operating company, would when it sold its product to a lower tier credit, would give a merchant discount, which helps subsidize the anticipated default rates. So for the consumer, again, looking, to our theme of being, best in class consumer experience, what's better than everybody gets the same rate, the same term, everybody's treated the same, especially on the heels of where our society is heading and what we're focused on, really delivering a first in class consumer experience. So there's not the tug of war and, you know, the frustration that goes along with not getting approved for something, or getting approved and being forced to pay a higher interest rate.
Yes, right.
You
That's
know,
no fun.
we really aim to solve that, right? And we have. So now we're going to bring it. And when I say we've done it with, you know, substantial volumes of people, and it works. It's just kind of being, again, forced to look at it in a different way, which we've traditionally done, and turn things on their head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, Blake, you keep a blog at blakebjohnson.com. Any other place that folks should go?
That predominantly is the, you know, the headquarters, so to speak. Yeah. I like writing. You know, those blogs always come out at about midnight or so. And, when I have some kind of thought in my head, I'm trying to apply to my business or my day or my family or friends or whatever it is. And then it tends to kind of make its way out on paper there. But that has a lot of kind of thoughts and things I've been, you know, chewing on for the last 30 years. You know, some of those go back to my childhood that are still applicable today, but that's the main place.
Awesome. All right. Well, Blake Johnson, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Your website, blakebjohnson.com. Blake, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Thanks, Josh. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.